Want to know the secret to surviving air travel? After you get where you're going, take off your shoes and your socks. Then you walk around on the rug barefoot and make fists with your toes.
Fists with your toes.
This video essay is about one of the most greatest action movies of all time. A movie that still continues to be relevant in pop culture, directed by John McTiernan and written by Jeb Stewart and Steven DeSouza. It is actually an adaptation of a thriller called Nothing Lasts Forever, written by Roderick Thorpe in 1979. As different as the two works are, they are still very similar. Some of the most famous action sequences from the film are taken from the book, like McClane jumping off an exploding roof with a fire hose attached to his waist and then shooting through a window to regain entry. Dropping a C4 bomb down an elevator shaft, McClane taping his gun to his back at the climax, and McClane crawling through elevator shafts. But, as there are many good scenes to analyze, we're going to take a deeper look into one of the most well-composed protagonist-antagonist first encounter in the late 80s Hollywood. Hans Gruber meets John McClane. We start with Hans Gruber checking the roof explosives. The whole set is covered in steam and smoke, and notice the hazy sound design working with the movie's soundtrack, creating an uneasy feel foreshadowing something bad going to happen. Notice the movement and direction Hans is going to. It's going up, and with the camera panning right, it looks like he's going up and left. In cinema, it is also used to create fright. As people are used to read from left to right and up and down, this is the exact opposite. This gives the feel of Hans going to a very scary place. So, after Hans seeing his plan is running sour, he really needs to find McClane.
Hi there. How you doing?
Notice the blocking. As Hans jumps to a crouch, he is already put in a non-dominant position, opposing to McClane standing up and looking down. We closely see the wounds on McClane, showing his increasing vulnerability. As a side note, this scene was actually unrehearsed to create a greater feeling of spontaneity between the two actors, also a sign of the hyper-realism directing John McTiernan used throughout the film. At this point, John doesn't yet really know who he's dealing with. The last guys he took off usually all had guns, so he's going to see how this unfolds. So Hans decides to act like a hostage. He also changes his accent because he's been talking on the radio all night while John listening. Up to here it is uncertain if John falls for the gimmick or not.
Relax, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm not gonna hurt you!
Now Hans is in quite the predicament, but also has the upper hand, seeing that McClane fell for the gimmick.
The fuck are you doing up here? What were you looking for?
I managed to get out of there and... well, I was just trying to get up on the roof and see if I could signal for help, you know. It's just from here. Why don't you come in and help?
Hold.
No, we go.
Forget the roof.
Come on.
I said forget the roof. They got people all over. Come on, you want to stay alive? You stay with me.
Notice the cinematography. You can see the gun practically next to his hand, but as McClane is placed in the middle, it is seemingly unattainable, creating a barrier between him and victory. We see a close-up of Hans's expression, and what is the sound design doing? Christmas bells, creating contrast, making us feel like Gruber now has the upper hand and a new sinister plan to get a hold of McClane. We intercut to another scene. This is also a mark of good editing, as you always want multiple storylines going parallel. If something gets to the peak of suspense, drop it and continue whenever seems right.
He's inside? Who is he?
Well, he might be a cop. I don't know. We're checking on that.
One of yours?
No way.
You smoke? Yeah.
Having two left also symbolizes a kind of duality between the two characters. He offers Hans his last cigarette, which, considering the whole situation he is in, well, is quite a nice guy move, understanding the hostage and his terrifying situation. Up to this point, it seems that John kind of trusts this guy to be a victim of the same situation he is in, but also keeping a distance because you can't be sure. Hans then pockets the empty pack, not throwing it on the ground, showing characteristics of an intelligent man who doesn't like chaos and who can hold his calm in critical situations. Also have a look how Hans is holding a cigarette. Opposing to the classical American way of holding it between the index and middle finger, he holds it like a German between his thumb and index finger. Now, let's go back a bit and take a look at the camera work. Basically, every shot is in Dutch tilt, emphasizing the dramatic, scary, and out-of-balance situation both the characters are in. Everything looks uncertain and about to explode. Hans is lit up from below, creating a shadow behind him, giving us even more fright and unease about the character. John is mostly in a close-up, also being lit from below, turning him into a kind of mysterious character. It helps building the tension of whether he suspects his new friend of being a terrorist or not. Also, the blinking light behind him creating even more chaos in the scene.
It's better than being caught with your pants down, huh?
Both the good guy and the bad guy have a laugh together, and in contrast with John's shoeless feet and the sound design turning even weirier and dark, we start to feel the tension grow even more.
I'm John McClane. You're,
John does the humanly move of introducing himself, seeing as he already told Hans why he's in the building, which takes us to Hans and how he is going to introduce himself.
Clay. Bill Clay.
Now, we cut to a dramatic touch-tilted zoom into the worker's floor guide, introducing that a worker named Clay actually works there, taking us to John's head. Is he the real Clay, or did he just read it off the table?
know how to use a handgun, Bill?
Look at the way John gives him the gun.
I spent a weekend at a
Because we're in a close-up, we see that something very important in the story is going on. Now, if you know anything about guns, you will see he kept his finger on the slide release so it wouldn't lock back as it would have normally because the chamber is empty. So now the trap is set to test if Mr. Bill Clay really is who he claims to be. Also notice John's face while offering the gun. It's almost entirely in a shadow, making John's offer more sinister and suspicious. Take a look at the editing. Hans now has the gun, loaded and ready, directly pointed at John. He takes a sinister, surprised look at John as we cut to McClane saying,
All you gotta do is pull the trigger.
This is the turning point of the scene. Hans thinks he now has the power, but he still can't shoot John right away because only he knows where the detonators are. Hans also thinks that John is unaware of his identity. And how does the director show the speeds of the tables turning? He changes the 180-degree axis, where John is now on the side Hans used to be, showing that he now has the upper hand. The foot on the cigarette is also a nice touch of stepping on someone's gratitude, also showing Gruber killing his Bill Clay alter ego.
33. Stockwerk. Kommt. Sofort.
Now Hans calls for his buddies and the time starts ticking, creating tension because of the power that Gruber is getting back.
Put down the gun. And give me my detonators.
The characters stay quite far at first, as John seems to be cornered.
Well. Hans.
Put it down now.
It's pretty tricky with that accent.
But when he starts walking towards Hans, the tension grows. Mainly because why would a man who is being pointed with a gun walk towards his certain death? This creates more tension of the protagonist's mysterious motives, as we really can't be sure what's going to happen next. Also, we are still in Dutch tilt. The dialogue here is crucial in the story.
You gotta be on fucking TV with that accent. But what do you want with the detonators, Hans? I already used all the explosives. Or did I?
I'm going to count to 3.
John asks about the detonators, but Hans denies an answer. So, Therefore, John now knows that there are more explosives in the building, which come important in the narrative later on. So, what does John say in the face of seemingly certain death?
I'm going to count to 3.
Yeah. Like you did with Takagi. Oops. No bullets. You think I'm fucking stupid, Hans?
Giving us the payoff of the whole scene. But we don't actually get to enjoy John's victory for more than 10 seconds because...
You're saying?
Yep, saved by the bell, Hans. But it doesn't really matter. They all get killed in the end.
You're saying?